And I would tell people, I don't know what to tell you, but some things are going to change that you don't plan on changing. You know, you're going to say, we're working on this trailer, but it's better for clipping. I don't know, we haven't dealt with clipping. And I said, this will happen anecdotally, I've seen it, it will happen. I don't know which piece it'll be. I can't say this leads to this. I said, but you'll see things, you're gonna see edges round and soften, and it will, just believe me. And sure enough, it would. And I said, I used to say, it's almost like they're in love. Because that's what it felt like. You know, you would go and say, okay, well, let's go to the arena. And they're like, okay, I'm good. And they'd be great in the arena, you know? And there was, and I'm like, I don't know why it does this, but it does. But then, what's happening these days, and I think this is super exciting, neuroscience and neurobiology are coming up behind this soft science of psychology and behavior. They're coming up behind it, and they're proving things that we couldn't prove before. We could just say, we had a clinical trial with 14 rats, and this happened, you know, but now we're starting to say, now we know what's happening in the brain. And I'm also going to tell you, science, neuroscience 10 years ago is actually outdated. It's going that fast. It's just changing and changing and changing and changing and changing. So there's even, you know, books and things that are more recent that are out there, and you're like, that's old science. That is not the new, it's not what we've continued to learn and be able to prove these days. So it's very exciting time for us behavior geeky people. but it is. So now, one of the things that they have learned, that they have shown, is when we train with traditional training, we tend to light up a part of the brain that is responsible for fight or flight. Because we brought something into it and we've said, here's this thing. And even just at the mildest level, we brought in something that they actually want to go away. So we put our leg on, let's say, and then they're like, I don't know what to do with that. But we've triggered, we've typically activated the fight or flight part of the brain. Okay, so then with positive reinforcement, it tends to light up a part of the brain that's been referred to by some neuroscientists as the seeking system. So the seeking system is the things they want, the things they like, the things they desire, the things that they're like, I love that, I want that. So one is avoiding something, one is seeking something. And what happens in these two areas of the brain, different chemicals are produced, resulting in hormones. So in the fight or flight part of the brain, it tends to be cortisol. So now we have a stress hormone that is now being produced and being sent out into their body. With positive reinforcement, it tends to be endorphins and dopamines. So now these feel-good hormones are being produced and they're being sent out into the body. So when I used to, because I couldn't explain it any better, say it seems like they're in love, it's indeed. It's endorphins and dopamines. We're now coursing through these horses' systems, and now they're like, we're getting ridden. I'm all good. I'm in love. You know, and so we have that versus having cortisol coursing through their systems and being more angsty and having more of that stress hormone in there. So while we were seeing the effects of it, I couldn't have told you why. I just was like, I don't know. It just happens. But now with neurobiology and neuroscience coming up behind it, we can now start to figure out these things. So there's two people that I really recommend you look at. Jaak Panksepp is one. He's great. And that would be Jaak Panksepp. He died young, so he died just a few years ago. And then there's another one called Dr. Robert Sapolsky, Sapolski. He's out of Stanford, and he has a video I quite like called Dopamine Jackpot. And so I had Jesse watch it, and Jesse said, "Oh, he's a funny scientist." But he is, and his work is really good too. So wanting to learn more about it, they're more contemporaries in the neuroscience side of things. And I think that is great. And one of the things that Robert Sapolsky's work that I got out of one of his studies, he has like a whole Stanford, the first year, he has like a whole course, a whole class on YouTube that you can watch for free. How about that? But he has this one, so it's called Dopamine Jackpot. And the first part he talks about, they taught these monkeys, light comes on, which is your cue, you hit a lever, that's the behavior, food is given, this is your reinforcer. So this whole sequence of things was solid, 100% reinforced, got it, solid, doing it. And then he changed the reinforcement schedule. So now he fed at 25, 50, or 75. Found when that behavior was now fed, this condition, expectation, ridden behavior was now fed 50% of the time. Now keep in mind, had super strong reinforcement history. The dopamine went through the roof. 25 and 75 was halfway in between. Even though they're on the different ends of the spectrum, it still was halfway in between. But that part, it's not that so much as what I liked is people that he asked the students, when do you think the dopamine is going to spike? And most of them said, when the food is given. And then a lot said, when the behavior is performed. It's when the light came on. When the opportunity for reinforcement presented itself, it went through the roof. I mean, this is when the dopamine spiked. So that's interesting because this kind of dovetails into us wanting to have cues that are so strong and so salient that when they see that, they're like, oh, I love this. And that's what we want. We want a horse that says, oh, I love the open water. You know, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one, you know, and we want, so when the opportunity presents itself, and this is can be something called the pre-MAC principle. Oh, it gets all technical, but utilizing things that have a really strong reinforcement history can then be, it can be the piece that is the most reinforcing.